Hello, the internet. My name is Malachi McIntosh. I am the editor and publishing director of Wasafiri magazine. Ta-da! Ta-da! Fortunately, don't have the latest issue with me, which is a faux pas. I've not been to the barber for a very long time, as you can see. And in addition to being an editor, I am also a fiction writer. And today I've published some short stories in a variety of different places, including in Comma Press's wonderful collection, The Book of Birmingham, dedicated to the city of my birth and the city in which I currently live. Comma very kindly extended an invitation to its authors to read pieces appropriate to the lockdown situation. And I've taken probably a bit longer than they thought I might to get back with something to read. In part because I was uncertain, and in part too because of the last few weeks, like a lot of people who write or try to do other arts, I thought I would go into this period at home with some space for reflection, without the sort of busyness and rush of day-to-day life, go into it and be incredibly productive. I turned back to a novel which I started writing in 2012, which I've been struggling with since 2012, hoping that I could finish it in the space of time that we have, and had made almost no progress. The kind of no progress I think that's familiar to people who write fiction, the kind of no progress that makes you sort of question whether or not you really ought to be doing this, and if you should be doing something else instead. It's a feeling I've felt many times before, and again, I'm sure many writers will have felt before. And when the invitation from Comic came through, I wasn't really feeling that confident about my work. But the invitation actually encouraged me to go back through some things that I had published. So what I'm going to read to you today, after some thought and reflection, is a piece which was published in Under the Radar, a sort of small journal run by not Comma Press, my goodness, Nine Arches Press. A shout out to Jane Kamain, where when I was in a similar period of despair about my writing, when I was sending things out everywhere and no one wanted any of it, Jane and her team at Under the Radar accepted this short story which is called New York. The story itself is about someone passing through a period of uncertainty who doesn't really know which way to turn, and that felt appropriate both to my current artistic predicament and also the times that we find ourselves in. It's not too long, and that's probably all I should say about it. So it's called New York. She decided she should spend the next 10 years doing exactly what she wanted. That living on your whims alone was the best way to live. It was an idea she couldn't share or shake, the freedom of it. In idle time, she fantasized all the things she could accomplish, all the paintings she'd paint, all the foreign cinemas she'd see, all the hours passed in the park, dreaming under the sun, days rolling by with a breeze. She had to try it. At first she felt apprehensive. Fear caught in her throat and kept her from just letting go. She thought of all the problems, the infinite collisions with everyone else's expectations, the kind of loneliness that comes when you decide against the grain. She thought of her roommate, her mother, her little brother, and what they'd say. She was delaying it, she knew, and scolded herself. The problems with the idea were real and clear, like, wasn't it selfish? And what would she even do? But this was more delaying. Procrastination, another symptom of her sickness. She was never decisive. She was never dynamic. You never take risks, she heard, in a voice that wasn't her own. But not anymore. So she committed. She woke up one morning and said, today, deciding that by the afternoon she'd be living for herself at last. But then she wasn't. The time came, but she couldn't. So she set another date and watched it go, then another, also gone, pushing it back and back until weeks had passed and it had been over a month. A month of stripping hangnails, gnawing pen lids, and always thinking, at work or at home, how she should be doing bigger things, other things, better things, that this wasn't what life was about. It was only when she reread her journal that she decided it was time to try it. No, not to try it, do it now. The emptiness of each entry and indictment. Prodding her, she flipped and flipped through. 8 o'clock, woke up. 9 to 6:30, work. 7 o'clock, home, DVD. 10 o'clock, bed. All that every day, pages and pages, making almost half a year of it. When once before there was stuff like ice skating and breakfast in bed and sex. Now nothing but work, woke up, slept. So she committed. One morning, while checking under everything for her heels, she decided the whole act of switching shoes to simply sit at a desk all day was pointless. And from that thought onwards, shoes still hiding, front door slammed, she was living for herself. No one knew, even her roommate Natalie wasn't told, though, after days of spectating, it became clear she got suspicious. Why aren't you dressed? I'm not going. Are you serious? Are you? What the hell? You made me organize this. You can't not go. I can. Are you? What the hell? Changed my mind, Natalie. No big deal. You know you have more fun without me there anyway. This is your kind of thing. That's not true, she shook her head. It's not. She shook it again. It isn't. What's up with you? Fuck off. What? Nothing. I'm joking. Have fun. There were many of these kinds of arguments, little tiffs ending in Natalie's frustration, an effervescent, fleeting thing that caused no one much fuss. It was okay. So what if she left her laundry there for days and didn't pick it up? So what if she left the ketchup top off and made handprints all over the counter? So what if 2 days running she'd taken a bath when she knew Natalie liked to shower after classes? She wanted to, and Natalie could handle it. Natalie was a grown-up. And anyway, these are all small things. You have to stop worrying all the time about making other people happy. Living for yourself means breaking a few eggs. A week passed, a much better week. She ate a lot more and gained a little weight, but that was okay because she was free. And if she felt like eating a cheesecake for breakfast, she'd eat a cheesecake for breakfast. If she felt like eating some ice cream, she'd pop the top open and find a wooden spoon. When she lay drunk on the carpet on a Monday at 8:44 a.m., or woke up early on a Sunday to spend it riding buses up and downtown, back and forth, she thought about how long she'd neglected herself and felt disgusted. How long had her actions been dictated by others? How long had she played a role in everybody else's game? Even when she was little, she'd run and giggle and sing when she didn't think it was funny. But from now on, real bliss. A worker boss had taken to tapping his watch when she strode in, whenever, daily, or clearing his throat when she switched her screen over to Japanese pirate movies on the internet or took a nap. She knew him. She knew he'd never complain out loud or fire her so long as she finished what he asked. He was soft, both outside and in, a middle manager whose wife wore the pants in the family, who made the money so she and his kids could spend it, his employees all calling him the doughboy because behind his back, doing that thing that he did with his hands. She switched her pattern from working at a moderate pace all day to working very hard in focused bursts. Then, with her boss sticking to passive aggression, she decided to work only some days, not work at all on others. And then, one day, just for the hell of it, she had the idea to leave her screen blank from 9 to 5:30 and do absolutely nothing. It was a whim, and it did get boring, but she felt like it, at least for most of the day. The clock hands barely moved, but she made it. Near the end, she had the urge to throw a box of pens at somebody that she didn't follow, but she could have. The following week, her boss confronted her. He tried to be polite, approached the problem from an oblique angle, circling it tentatively, fingers clenching and unclenching an invisible stress ball. He first complimented her on her new hairstyle. It's very unique. Then spoke at length about her exemplary past performance. Then leaned in, serious, managing only 3 whispers of criticism before she started swearing. The problem was that somewhere in the middle of his monologue, she felt a pang of guilt, both hollow and sharp, within her ribcage. She knew he'd been nice to her always, that she'd gotten the job when she really needed it, that he made a way for her to switch from part-time to full-time with no questions and no fuss. But guilt wasn't something she wanted to feel anymore. She wanted to feel detached, amused, and strong, and above at last. So she followed another whim, called him a fucker and a cunt and a dickhead and a whore and his mother, and knocked everything off her desk. He was stunned. He did not move or speak or do anything at all. There was something near silence in the entire office. Everyone watching, even the temps. Unhappiness corkscrewing even harder into the same spot in her chest. I quit, she yelled, screamed it. Words forced out so hard her voice broke on the T. She marched out after, stormed out, disheveled, stomping, and thought in the elevator about how she hated the job so long, had complained to Natalie about it almost every day, thought on the bus how this was what she wanted, needed even, forever, and this exact type of thing she'd be too scared to even think about doing before. Thought she was getting tougher, growing up, getting stronger. Thought as she walked down her block that she'd only been answering phone calls and arranging meetings anyway, that this wasn't rocket science, that the world wasn't going to die. Her door slammed. The apartment inside was empty. Her clothes in her room scattered everywhere over her floor and across her bed. Natalie was probably in classes or out with her boyfriend. Wouldn't be back until late. There were other people she could call, old friends. She thought about the doughboy's popped open eyes, his hands, but didn't want to. Thought about what now, but didn't want to do that either. It was a nice day and she should be out, somewhere, she thought. Right now she should be celebrating, running, eating a sandwich on a bridge and laughing at something. She should be in a park rolling around in the grass, going out that night and dancing until she couldn't move or think or breathe or even be alive anymore. She should, she thought. She should. I'm worried about you, her mother said on the phone. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. If you're fine, then why did Natalie call me? I don't think you're fine. I'm not hearing a voice that's saying I'm fine right now. She tells me you're gaining a lot of weight. For God's sake, Mom. Don't you start. I'm worried about you. I worry. I hear you're not working. For God's sake. How are you planning on paying your bills? We can't afford. I'm not. Honey. I think you should come home for a little while. Don't you? Since you're not working right now. You seem upset, sweetie. You sound depressed. I'm not coming home. How about one weekend? Mom. No. Honey. Goodbye. Honey, hon. I think you should go back to college. Oh my God, I don't want to have this conversation right now. I'm just being honest with you. All I can do is be honest. I think this is the main problem and I think it's a waste. Your father left us with more than enough to cover it. We can get you back in. You have a legitimate reason for dropping out. They won't hold it against you. Come on, sweetie. I worry. I am worried. Dad wouldn't be happy with any of this. You're too intelligent for what you're doing. Mom, this is blackmail. It's me being honest. This is goddamn emotional blackmail. Then sue me. Am I not supposed to care about my daughter? Is it a sin for me to care about my daughter? Yes. I don't think you think it is. Her mother paused. I don't think you think it is. You know, I hope this isn't about that boy. This isn't about that boy again, is it? Honey, please, tell me. It's not about that boy. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror after the phone call and saw she really was gaining weight now, fast. She didn't want to care about it, but she still cared. Her thighs had rounded out and softened. Her stomach jutted, and, like always, she knew some pairs of jeans were already waiting to betray her. She climbed into the shower with her clothes on, turned the heat all the way over to cold because she wanted to, then flipped on the water. The pressure in her face was more of a shock than she expected and freezing. She jumped back away from it, almost slipped, and scrambled out of the bath. She wandered through the apartment, trailing shoe prints over the mats, the floor, the carpet, into the kitchen, felt hungry, opened the fridge and left it open and sat next to it, a jar of peanut butter in one hand, water dripping from her hair onto the floor, held her face, tried hard to think of a whim. The city. New people always talked about the endless opportunities, the way you could be what you wanted, the way there was always someplace you could go or someone you could find. She joined the crowds, the streets, wearing red lipstick and one of Natalie's party dresses and a pair of Natalie's too small shoes, clacking along fast because she wanted to. She took the subway east because she picked east and wandered around the neighborhood she climbed up into because, staring at a subway map, something in her head said, why not? It was summer and hot and everyone was out. The streets crowded, at least one guy out of every 20 with his shirt off to show off either a lot or not much. There were dogs, old people, everyone. She spent an hour glancing into juice bars and coffee shops but didn't see anything. She had a plan and she wasn't upset. Upset people, depressed people, sit at home and mope, take prescription drugs, write poetry in notebooks and draw pictures on themselves. They don't do anything. Their whole existence is about not doing anything, about sitting, about waiting. And here she was. She found what she wanted around the corner, close enough. A tattoo shop, a man at a counter inside on the telephone. He wore all black, had rough stubble and dyed hair flipped all over to one side of his face, like how you'd expect. The shop was the same, standard. The window display a dummy of a woman's torso from the legs to the neck, piercings pushed through any spare plastic skin, the words tattooed, stenciled in red on the glass in front of it, a stock collage of pictures of works in progress, tattoos completed in stages, the only striking picture a series of scarred arm covered, slowly, with inked and barbed wire. It could work. The guy looked up at her and grinned, smirked. Who knows what he thought. It didn't matter, though. Anything he could have known about her was all wrong, and she wasn't that, and he would see it soon. She breathed in, Her hand had the handle of the door already, had already opened it, and her feet had already brought her from the grey carpet onto wooden floor. For a second, less, she wondered what she was doing. After this, she thought, then what? After this? But she ignored it. It wasn't important. Another victim, the guy said to himself, loud enough to hear, but she ignored that too. She ignored it all. She wasn't there for what he thought, and she was much more than what any of them thought. Her mother, or him, or Natalie, or her father, or a little brother, or anybody else. And she wanted to be even better, to improve herself. So she was trying to. There was nothing wrong with trying to change. Thanks very much for listening. Again, this is short stories published in the wonderful little magazine Under the Radar, which comes from Nine Arches Press, one of Britain's great small presses, like Comma Press. Shout out to Gallibeggar Press because it's necessary. Thank you all for listening. I hope you found something in that was of value, and I hope you all take care of yourselves.